So ASICS took their Flight Foam Turbo Foam found in the metaspeed, they put it in a souped up Nova Blast and have a stack height of over 40 millimeters. But a lot of people are asking how this shoe fits into their rotation or kind of what its purpose is. So after over 100 kilometers in the shoe, I'm ready to give you my full review. So throughout this review, I'll be using my Stoplight rating process. And with this, if I give it a green light, that means it has more pros than it does cons. If it has yellow, that the pluses and minuses are about equal. And if it's a red light, that the negatives outweigh the positives. So just a quick disclaimer that ASICS did send me these shoes for the purpose of review. However, all the thoughts of it are my own. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive into the review. Starting with the upper, the jacquard woven mesh was slightly padded and has a gusted tongue that felt premium and provided me with a fit that is true to size. I thought that it had a nice midfoot lockdown, but I did get a tiny bit of heel slip on my left foot for some reason, but that was quickly fixed with a runner's loop. The padding around the ankle and on the tongue were enough to be comfortable on long slow days, but also not overbuilt so it doesn't get in the way when you're doing a workout. Moving on to the midsole, we have a lot of foam here. It has a stack height of 45 millimeters in the heel and 37 in the forefoot, giving it an 8 millimeter heel to toe drop. The majority of the foam is Flight Foam Turbo, which is the same super foam found in the metaspeed, and on the bottom there's a thin layer of Flight Foam Blast Plus to add a little extra durability and stability. I found that this combination of foam led to a very responsive ride. Despite the large stack height, you don't sink in and lose energy. You stay on top of the shoe and get a nice energetic toe off that is definitely on the firmer side. It has a nice rocker that helps add to that smooth ride, making the heel to toe transitions easy. The more miles I put in the shoe, the better the shoe feels in my opinion, so I haven't had issues with durability, but I don't think it'll bottom out anytime soon. The outsole is similar to the Nova Blast and uses a Hard Plus rubber, which is a compound that I found to be very durable. It grips decently well too, but since there isn't a whole lot of it on the outsole, I found the overall traction to be great for roads and some gravel paths, but definitely nothing crazy. Luckily, by keeping the amount of rubber to a minimum, this does help keep the weight lower. At 8.4 ounces, this shoe is about the same weight as the Nova Blast, despite having so much more foam. Alright, now it's time for the run type stoplight portion of the review, where I will go over speed day, everyday, long run day, and recovery day. Starting with speed day, I give the Nova Blast kind of a yellow light, and I say that because it depends what speed day you're using this shoe for. So if you're using it for like 800 meter repeats at 10k pace, I found that there was just too much shoe underfoot, and without a plate, I was kind of losing some of that pop, that exaggerated snap off the toe off. And for workouts like that, I really preferred something like the Magic Speed 3. But where I did like using this shoe for speed day was when I was doing like long progression runs or tempo runs at marathon pace. I found that this shoe was responsive enough to feel fast at those types of runs, but also had enough protection underfoot where I wasn't feeling really beat up towards the end of the run. For everyday runs, I give the Superblast a green light. So like I mentioned, I haven't really had any issues with the durability of this shoe so far. It isn't as bouncy as the Nova Blast, which I kind of enjoy for my everyday trainers. However, I did really enjoy the extra protection from all that additional cushion underfoot. Another thing I did appreciate too is that this is a super trainer, but it doesn't have a plate, unlike a lot of super trainers. And for me, when I'm just trying to do a lot of everyday mileage, I don't necessarily need a plate for that, especially not a carbon plate. So I'm happy about that here. For long runs, I give the Superblast another green light, and I think that that's one of my favorite uses of the shoe is for long runs, like I mentioned earlier, especially for kind of progression long runs, but just regular long runs as well. There's a ton of cushion underfoot, so you have that nice protection. I found that the upper, despite it being nice and light, it does have a good amount of cushioning that will keep you comfortable throughout those long runs. And it's not as squishy as the Nova Blast, but again, when I took the Nova Blast for long runs, I was really wishing for more underfoot at that time. So luckily no issue with that here. And especially for a marathon training block, I think that this is a good training shoe to have. For recovery days, I give the Superblast a yellow light. And despite it having a lot of cushion underfoot, which is nice for recovery days, like I mentioned, it is more on that firmer, responsive side. And for me personally, when I'm taking it easy on recovery day, I want something that's going to be a little softer, a little squishier underfoot, and kind of more like the NovaBlast, while this one's, I'd say, is a little more speedy feeling. So that's just kind of my preference. All right, now let's talk about the price real quick. So I'm giving this a yellow because they did lower the price. This shoe started out at $220, which is pretty crazy for a training shoe in my opinion. Luckily, they kind of came to their senses and lowered that to $200. But still, I feel like a lot of the shoes kind of in this super trainer, high stack, lightweight shoe are around $180, and I think that this shoe would be an excellent deal at $180, but at $200 it's just a little too much in my opinion. Alright, so taking a look at the results here, we have a good amount of green with some yellow, but overall I'm going to give this shoe a slow. So despite the fact that I do really enjoy this shoe, I think that the price really does weigh in here. I think the $200 can be justified if you are just buying one shoe and you're going to use this shoe for every single run and on a race day. That way it's a pretty good value. But if you're just trying to buy this shoe for one particular run type to fit into your rotation, I don't think it necessarily excels at just one type well enough to really justify that $200 price tag. So if you do find it on sale, definitely go ahead and try it out. Or if you're trying to find one shoe that can do it all, I think this could be a good choice for that. But again, that price, I really wish it was closer to that 180 mark. It would be much easier to recommend. So I want to hear from you. Have you tried the Superblast? Are you going to try one after watching this review? Go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep on running.